On today's episode of the Broadway Shuffle, we talk which coach do we think would be the best at Texas Tech out of the current Big 12 coaches. We discuss basketball news, that, and much more coming up next. Welcome in, guys. Tonight, we don't have our usual host. Brennan Baxter is out enjoying the lovely beaches of the Gulf of America or Gulf of Mexico, whatever you like to call it these days. But we're excited to be here. We're excited to talk some Big 12 football, but we wanted to take it from a different angle. We wanted to talk about the coaches, but not how we would necessarily rank the coaches. We wanted to see, and we'd love to get feedback on this, is what coach do you think would be the best in the Big 12? We'll get into that in just a moment. But Conrad, how are you, man? Good to see you. Back after a brief hiatus. Everything well in your world?
Yeah, everything's great. Got a new background. Decided to go with the Zyler Buchanan background this evening and probably for the foreseeable future as well. But here and happy to be back on the podcast. And if this is your first time listening on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple, do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Helps the show grow, helps us become bigger and better, and you can join the fastest growing community of Red Raiders on the internet.
Clayton, how are you?
Great, man. Preparing for my wedding, getting ready to go to the beach as well.
Yep, you'll be joining.
Which beach are you going to?
Cancun. I don't know what the beach is called. Playa Mujeres, I guess.
There you go. That'll be fun. But yeah, we're excited to get into this. If you really want to take it up a notch, go ahead and turn those notifications on. That would be the ultimate next step if you're truly a loyal listener. But yeah, guys, wanted to jump right into it. This will be a shorter episode for us tonight. I was thinking about this and we were talking and debating some of these items. I think Lubbock is really interesting in the sense that I don't think every kind of coach works here. I don't think it's a job, and I think every institution is unique like that. But I think something like A&M or UT, it takes a particular kind of coach to win there, just like it is in Lubbock. Not every coach is going to work here. It doesn't necessarily strike me as the Alabamas of the world or the Ohio States of the world, where there's a lot of pressure, but you're going to have everything that you need. There's a lot of really easy things about the job. And I think Tech does have some really inherent advantages. But I think there's also some things you really need to be good at specifically to be a good head coach for the Texas Tech men's football team. Not that we have a women's football team, but the football team in general. So wanted to kind of talk about that. And this is not a ranking of which coaches we think are best. It's which coaches do we think would be the best in Lubbock. And we'll jump right into that. Conrad, I'll go to you initially for your thoughts.
Well, I just think with Texas Tech, we've documented that. We've talked about it, how special a place it is, how unique of a place it is. But two, we're looking at things not from how they are at their current school, right? Like there are guys that are good fits where they are culture-wise that would just not be a good fit in Lubbock. And I also think too, we have to project out a little bit. Okay, if they're going to be a good fit here, if they would be, how do you think it'd work with recruiting, with donors, with boosters, with the culture of the university as a whole? Because there's some guys that we'll talk about in this on this list that really aren't even a fit at their current schools, if we're being honest. And so interested to see how we diagnose and see how they would fit at Texas Tech.
Yeah, kind of the things that I initially consider. One, your recruiting chops. I think you need to be, a good recruiter. I think Lubbock has a lot of advantages. The facilities, the one of the biggest the cities in the Big 12. There's a lot of advantages. There are some disadvantages that some other kids, may not enjoy, and you're going to have to be pretty good at selling the place. The other thing, how good of a tactician are you? How well are you going to interact with donors? How forward facing are you? And then how good have you been at hiring coaches in the past? What's your track record at developing a program that's not going to pull in top 10 classes every single year? Those are kind of the four things that I'm thinking about. And my first kind of stop that I wanted to make was the three other Big 12 Texas head coaches. So that's Dave Aranda, that's Sonny Dykes, that's Willie Fritz. Out of those three, Clayton, who do you think would kind of be the best fit at Tech?
That's such a tough question because I feel like it's like the easy answer to say Sonny Dykes because of the obvious connections to Tech, but I honestly don't feel like he would be a great fit at Tech. I feel like he would be a good fit like if we went straight from Mike Leach to him.
Yeah.
But the current Texas Tech, I just don't feel like he fits. And admittedly, I don't know a ton about Willie Fritz, but I also don't think that Aranda would be like a great fit in Lubbock. So I
Yeah,
almost want to say Fritz, but I don't even know. I would be lying if I said like I knew a lot about him at this stage in his career.
yeah, it's a tough. Yeah, Conrad, go ahead.
I that is so hard just with those three guys because I'm like, well, Dave Aranda, I mean, he didn't really have the personality I think to fit in Lubbock. I don't see that. He's got, to his credit, he's got defensive play
Sure,
calling chops, but that's not really what you're doing as a head coach, and so he doesn't also excite a fan base. I mean, before the Lubbock game last year, if he would have lost that game, there's a good chance he would have gotten fired, and so. I don't even think his own university really wants to get behind him all that much, and so he doesn't excite me. Just like I don't even think he excites Baylor. But at the same time, Willie Fritz, I mean, he's a good coach. I just don't know that much about him from a recruiting standpoint or a player interaction standpoint. And then, so I would say of those three, it would kind of be process of elimination for me. I'd probably say Sonny would be the best fit out of those three. That doesn't mean I think he'd be a good fit, but I just think out of those three, if those three are my options, I'd go with Sonny.
it's something that's interesting to me is just how short coaching tenures are in this profession. I look at Aranda and it feels like he's only been there for a little bit, but he's the fifth longest tenured coach in the Big 12 right now. I think he's behind Chris Kleiman, he's behind Gundy, and then he's behind Campbell. So I guess fourth.
And Whittingham at
Oh,
Utah.
and Whittingham. Yeah, excuse me. So he's fifth, and it's like out of 16 teams, it feels like Aranda's only been there a little bit, and yet he's fifth longest tenure with 5 years. So I don't know. A couple angles you could go with that. Sonny Dykes made a national championship. I mean, I think regardless of what you say about that, it's different playoff, whether they, but they won a playoff game. They made the champ. I think that has to count for something. My personal feelings about Sonny Dykes cannot count for anything, even though he's maybe not my favorite person in the entire world. I think I'd take Sonny or Willie. Even though I like Aranda a lot, I just feel like him culturally in Lubbock would be a really weird fit.
Yeah.
How would he work with the donors? Would he be, because a big part of being the coach at Texas Tech is just being very much like one of the figureheads of the community. I don't know that he's asked to do that in Waco, and he would definitely be asked to do that in Lubbock. That would just be a kind of a weird marriage.
Well, we
Agreed.
forget too about Sonny Dykes did make the decision that year to start Chandler Morris over Max Dugan. So if Chandler didn't get hurt, they are not in the national championship that year because Sonny made the coaching decision that turned out to be wrong to start Chandler Morris. So I don't know.
I mean, I guess you could maybe ding him for that, but then he did make the national title. I mean, I think that kind of outweighs that, right?
He got lucky. Everybody.
Yeah.
He
Also
broken
spin it
clock
that
is right.
he made the national title with his backup QB.
Yeah, there
you
you
can.
go.
You can, but I'm choosing to spin it the way I would like because I don't like TCU or Coach Dykes very much.
And the other angle,
This is a Texas Tech podcast.
He made the national championship and then proceeded to miss a bowl game the next season. Like, I know there's development cycles within Big 12 programs, but that is a weird program momentum. Like, I feel like if Sonny has a bad year, he's like potentially on the hot seat. Like, if they go 5-7, does he get fired? And I feel like the answer is probably no, but
he gets
maybe.
one more year.
But then he would definitely be like 1 year away at that point.
Which is crazy to think.
Yeah.
Well, he gave $1 million back to the university, so they can't fire him, right?
It's crazy that TCU is poor enough they're looking to their head coach to donate money to them. That's just the crazy thing that I can't understand. So I wanted to transition kind of into the next category of coaches, and these are kind of the long tenured guys. So this is Mike Gundy, Kyle Whittingham, and Chris Kleiman. So and we'll throw Matt Campbell in there. The guys that have proven it, they've been at their programs quite a while. And let's say, for the sake of Whittingham, let's say that you're getting him for at least 5 years. He's not going to come here for 1 year and retire. Same with Gundy. Where do you kind of rank those guys? Who's your favorite of that bunch? You kind of give your thoughts on those Big 12 coaches.
Gundy is definitely my favorite. I feel like in an alternate universe, Gundy would have been like his exact same career, but at Tech. And I know he's had a rough couple of years, but you cannot convince me that he just like doesn't know how to coach anymore. I think it's more to do with the overall like boosters, NIL, the funding, all of that. And who knows if he would have been able to do the same stuff that Joey has done at Tech as far as like organizing all the boosters. But if he did get the same kind of donor support, I would love to see Gundy in Lubbock. I think he's easily the best fit of those four.
Yeah, I think Conrad, I'll go to you.
I would agree. Kleiman also interests me because I guess we're comparing. I mean, what we're doing is we're comparing every single person to Joey here, right? Like that's what we're doing, and um, at least that's how I'm naturally doing it. And so with Kleiman, it feels like he wants a very disciplined program. He seems personable enough to interact with the donors. I don't think he's nearly at Gundy's level. To Clayton's point, I think in terms of that, I don't know if he would get the same donor support, but Kleiman just seems like a guy that his team really plays hard for, and I think that really makes a big difference. And so Kleiman's an interesting one to consider, but I definitely think that Gundy would be the best. I just don't know what I think about Whittingham. I really don't know how to peg him in terms of that.
So I think I agree with Clayton. I like Mike Gundy a lot. Like I love listening to his pressers. If you look at his past, he's been at Oklahoma State now. What? Let me look. 20 something years. Yeah, 20 years. He's been there 20 years. His winning percentage is 65%. He's got a 66% win percentage in bowl games. Like his most recent slide, I think that when you look at that, that seems to me more like an Oklahoma State thing more than a Mike Gundy thing. So I think he'd easily be my pick just based on, history of development, history of replacing coordinators, history of doing well in an area that's not necessarily known for like high profile football success. And then just general personality. I think I enjoy Gundy from that regard. I think the other one I'd pick though is Whittingham. He's kind of like the crustier version of Gundy in my mind, just like very developmental, knows exactly what he wants to do, has a clear identity on how his team is going to play, but isn't afraid to mix up and throw in a few wrinkles based on his team's strengths. They've just been really, really good. He's developed some really, really good teams at Utah without having really, really good talent. And I think I respect that about him, Kleeman, and Campbell. I think these would all probably, if I'm picking any of the coaches out of the Big 12, I'm probably picking these four guys first. So I don't mean that as a knock on Campbell. I think he's done a good job. He just hasn't done it as long as Gundy and Whittingham.
Who would you least want out of that group?
Mine would be Campbell.
I think it's like, Campbell.
Yeah, let's say if Campbell was at Tech and they had the season that they were, or like 2021, they were preseason top 5. Let's say that's Tech, and then he did what they did at Iowa State that year and went 7-5. I think all of the Tech boosters and fans would sour on him at that point. It feels like, I don't know, this is definitely a shot, and I think he's a good coach, but he kind of needs to be at a school that's not used to having football success. And I mean, you could say Tech. You could say we're not used to having success, but I guess even more drastic than that.
Yeah, and I think he's kind of bootstrapped that program. I don't think they're dealing with just insane amounts of resources throughout their history, which I don't think you historically have either, this year notwithstanding. So I respect that in a lot of ways. The way that he's built that program. He's been there. It's shocking to me how long he's been there almost 10 years now. He started coaching in 2016, and I think I would be, if let's just say Joey Maguire up and vanished, he retired. If we hired any of these four coaches, I think I would be extremely happy with that. Not saying I'd take them over Joey, but I wouldn't turn my nose up at any of these guys if they wanted to come coach at my school.
I agree. I would take Campbell, or Campbell would be my least favorite of those as well. But you got to respect what he's done. I mean, I think I would be fascinated to see this season. I mean, what if it did happen, guys? What if we were preseason number 5 and we did go 7-5? How do y'all think the show would do? How do you think we would react if that happened?
Yeah. Oh man, it's so, because they had their
Let's
first.
Just play that out. Let's just.
They
play
had their
that out.
first double-digit win season in a long time, or their first double-digit win season ever. Now we haven't had one of those in quite some time, so I'm not going to laugh and mock that, but that's just, it's wild to think about. And if we were preseason top 5 and went 7-5, I think there would be great wailing and gnashing of teeth.
For sure. It is kind of crazy that like this past year was his best year at Iowa State, and going into the year, definitely not highest expectations.
He's a little bit like Gundy to me in that regard, where it's like when you count him out or you're not thinking about him, that's when he's going to surprise you with like a 9-win season. And when he has the expectations, it's like, and he'll go 8-4 or 6-6 or something. Like that's kind of how I feel like Gundy's been.
Yeah,
agreed.
So I'll move into maybe some of the more controversial coaches. Let's go with some of the first-year guys. We'll take Rich Rodriguez. We'll take Scott Frost. And I think those are the only two first years. So I'll add the 2-year tenured guys. Kenny Dillingham. We'll add Brent Brennan in there, and then we'll take Scott Satterfield. Where are your thoughts on those individuals?
Yeah, big Brent Brennan guy for me.
There's literally no way.
Big guy. I think he would excel in Lubbock. I think it'd be national championship, probably second or third year with Brent Brennan. So
I'll have a hot take. I would take him over Scott Satterfield. I know that Scott Satterfield is not a good coach. I think the jury is still potentially out on Brennan.
That was sarcasm. I think y'all know that from me. But I think that's a fair point with Satterfield.
I think the guys I would be least interested, like Scott Frost doesn't move me at all. Rich Rodriguez, I guess that's like kind of fun. Like his offenses have historically been like really fun, and he's done it in this conference before. So I guess that's kind of I guess he didn't do it at West Virginia when they were in the Big 12, but he's done it at this level before. The one that would be the clear number one is Kenny Dillingham. The way that he builds his program, the way that he runs his program, I think is I'm envious of some of those aspects. I think he does a really good job. Now, he went 3-9 and then he won the Big 12. So he's had one really great year and one really bad year.
I mean, I'll take that. I'll take 3-9 to go win the Big 12 the next year.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not turning my nose up at that, but I think Dillingham is very much one of those young coaches that I think gets the current environment really well. He's adapted really well, and someone that I think is running his program the right way. The way that they retained all their players this past year, when we get into our Arizona State preview, they just retained a ton of guys. So, Dillingham would be first on that list for me.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like he almost fits at like any school. Like, I think you could put him pretty much anywhere.
Yeah, I like him. I think for me, I guess I questioned him a little bit when I forget what was the game. That was the BYU game. The way he kind of conducted himself after the game, and some of that play calling at the end of the game was questionable for me.
Sure.
But I do think I will say it was cool to me to see the passion that he had, the passion that he does have for his players, for the school that he's coaching at, because he went there. I mean, that was always his dream job. Like, I wouldn't be shocked even if they say they won the Big 12 again this year. If in bigger schools, SEC schools came calling. I mean, it wouldn't shock me because of his expressed love for his own university, because it is. If he never left there, like, it wouldn't shock me if that was the route he chose to go, like a Gundy, right, at Oklahoma State. So I think that would be something to watch. But I think he would absolutely fit in Lubbock. I think fans at Texas Tech would resonate with his emotion and his belief in his team and his players. I think that would be something. I think that's why we love Joey so much, is because that's exactly what he does. Maybe he's not to the same level emotionally that Kenny Dillingham is, but Kenny's also a little bit younger than Joey. So Joey's 25, Kenny's 23. So there's still a lot to be considered with them. But Kenny would be my pick for sure. And I think I'm a Kenny believer. So I don't know about you guys, but I am.
Yeah, one comment I have about that, I don't know if you think back to the coaching carousel this past season, relatively docile coaching carousel. Not a ton happened with revenue sharing kicking in. You had West Virginia that moved, but thinking of the SEC and the Big Ten jobs that opened up, it was Purdue. It was there really? I don't think there was a single SEC job that opened this past cycle. There really wasn't anything in the Big Ten. You've got a lot of, like, if Auburn has a really bad year, if Arkansas has a bad year, if Kentucky, or you could even see if like Florida has a really bad year. Like, there are some big programs that could potentially be opening this coaching cycle, and I think the carousel.
We can't talk about this. We cannot talk. I know where this is going. I know where this ends. I can't do it. I can't do it.
I'm just saying, Dillingham, Arizona State is not a program that is flush with NIL or really well funded as an athletic department. Now, they're fine. They clearly were able to win the Big 12 with the money that they have. I'm not knocking their financial commitment. Do they have the resources of an SEC or a Big 10 program?
No,
absolutely not. Most Big 12 programs don't. That's not unique to Arizona State. So if they're going to keep him around, I think he's going to have to take the hometown kid discount. And is he interested in doing that this early on in his career?
Yeah,
that will be something interesting to monitor going forward. If the carousel really, really kicks off as we think it might this year.
That's a fair point, and I wasn't necessarily. I was just thinking more the emotional appeal of that, but he does have to go do it again. He's got to do it. He's got to do it without Scadaboo, and we'll see if he can. I hope he can't, but I do just like him as a coach, which is why he was my pick, and I think he's all of our picks.
Yeah. I mean, he's shown he can. He's won the Big 12. That's a huge win. Sonny Dykes has never done that.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle Whittingham's never done that. I don't think Mike Gundy's never done that.
Sonny,
right?
Gundy's
Mike Gundy.
No, you might be right. Because he lost versus Baylor.
Yeah,
in like 22 or whatever.
Which was wild. Was that the last year for Texas? No. Texas won their last year.
Yeah, that was 20. That was 23.
I don't think they've won a Big 12 title.
I think you're right, Zyler.
That's pretty crazy. Even the year that they were like
2012
number 2 and they lost to Iowa State. Did they?
Well, but there wasn't a Big 12 championship back then.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah, but did they not win the title though? Like the regular season title? I mean, that's different than obviously winning the championship game.
I'm really trying to figure this out because maybe I don't know. Maybe that 2011 team. Because
for all of our listeners out there, we are not experts on Oklahoma State football, so forgive us for the delay in finding out if they have ever won a Big 12 championship.
It would be that 2010 or that 2011 team.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But going back to the point on the coaching carousel, it's going to be interesting to see like if the bottom, like the historically bottom of the SEC and Big Ten are going to be able to poach like mid to upper half. Like you mentioned Kentucky. If they came available and came after Dillingham, like I feel like Arizona State is clearly better program historically, but Kentucky obviously just has way more money and resources right now. So that would be like, I actually don't know if they would be able to get him or not.
I know Gundy has won the Big 12 title 2011.
Okay.
Just so we're clear.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that is going to be very astute. So when coaches at the Big 12 assert themselves at the top of the conference, can you hold off middle to lower tier SEC and Big Ten programs? I think that'll be a big sign of what that coach views your job as, and how your job is viewed compared. And it's not the Alabamas and the Auburns and the Georgias and the Floridas. They'll get there's maybe 8 to 10 schools they can't poach from. It'll be, can you hold off Mississippi State? Can you hold off even somebody like Arkansas, who I think is a fine program, but somebody that, middle to lower tier of the SEC, somebody like South Carolina, can you keep your coaches from programs like that?
South Carolina could be like all those jobs you name, like Auburn, Arkansas, South Carolina. I mean, those are fantastic jobs. Florida, I mean, those are unbelievable jobs. And
Florida, I'm not denying, but South Carolina is clearly several tiers below, in my mind, the Florida, the Alabamas, the Auburns, the
several
Georgias.
Tiers?
Like, let's say those are all tier 1, maybe not tier 1A. I think that's like a tier 3 job.
I'd put South Carolina tier 2, honestly.
I guess it depends on where you define it, but like,
and how many teams you have in
I'm thinking
tier.
Like tier 1A is like Ohio State, UT, and Oregon. Like those coaches. I know Oregon's lost some guys. I don't even think of it like, I think of it may just be Ohio State and Texas. It may just be those 2 jobs. I feel like you would never poach a program from those schools.
So you're breaking up the tiers by like how likely another school would be to poach their coach.
Yeah, or how likely is your coach, if he is at this program, to leave for another job?
Gotcha. Yeah, no, there's definitely not many.
Like, and I can think of it's just weird to like. I can think of like 7 SEC jobs that I think are better than South Carolina.
Yeah, like, I'm not just talking. I'm not just talking SEC though. I'm talking entire country, like including big jobs in that, like
so
Michigan,
if you have them in
USC.
tier 2, which I think would all be better jobs in South Carolina, but I don't know that USC is a tier 1 job.
Okay, I'll give that to you. I think I'd probably at that point I'd put South Carolina tier 3, but tier 3 is still pretty high though. Like
you're still there's any
for sure.
Yeah, I think you're still leaving. I think you're still leaving a Big 12.
You think?
I still think
would
because
would
the potential
Dave
of the
Aranda
South
leave
Carolina,
Baylor to go to South Carolina?
I don't think we'll ever have that situation, so it's hard to even envision that.
Let's say Kenny Dillingham.
Yeah, I think I would be much more confident that South Carolina could get Dillingham than Kentucky or like Mississippi State.
Yeah, South Carolina is definitely a better job than Kentucky or Mississippi State.
But I think South Carolina to me is the Rorschach like not the Rorschach test, but kind of the line to me. It's like, can you hold off a program like this? Like clearly good, well funded, definitely not elite. Are you capable of holding off programs like that? And you hope to be in a position to decide that, because I think if the Ohio States, the Alabamas, the Georgias are calling, it's just curtains. There's
Yeah.
that. Arizona State's not holding them off. Utah's
They
not
likely will never be poaching from the Big 12, though. To be
very
they
fair.
will poach someone else from SEC, and then it's like whether Arizona State will be able to hold off that team. Yeah.
But in the world that Kenny Dillingham wins 3 Big 12 titles in a row and they're like a playoff mainstay, maybe that happens. But
I'm just glad we're never going to be in this position.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess the 3 coaches that I would call the oddballs, I couldn't really fit them into categories. Coach Prime, Kalani Sitake, and Lance Leipold. Where do you kind of fall on those guys?
I feel like,
and for those who don't know, Kalani Sitake is coach at BYU, Coach Prime is the coach at Colorado, and then Lance Leipold is the coach at Kansas.
Whenever I first was thinking about Dion, it kind of feels like he's not a good fit for Lubbock, but honestly, the more I think about it, I actually think he would work. And I think that him and Joey
I do too.
Are probably more similar than you would think, like on the surface level.
Yeah. I think he'd work. I think Coach Prime could work anywhere, pretty much.
I need to see him in a Power 4 job without his son to know if he can actually coach. In my opinion, I still think the jury is actually still out on if he can coach, because whatever you want to say about Shedeur and his fall, I could say a lot because I think there is a lot to say. But he was a fantastic college quarterback. You can't dispute that. And Travis Hunter was obviously the best player in college football last year. And so I need to see more because I have more confidence in Kalani Sitake and Lance Leipold as coaches because of the situations that they're in. Now, Kalani is a better situation than Lance, but what Lance did in kind of resurrecting Kansas is more impressive to me than what Coach Prime did at Colorado, because Lance at Kansas had way less talent than Coach Prime did at Colorado, for what I just said. So maybe that's just my bias in trying to make a case against Dion at all costs. Yeah. But that probably is, but I'm going to do it anyway because this is our show. So
yeah, I think it's Dion or Lance for me. Kalani would be a weird fit, and I think he's actually a good coach. He's just perfect for the job that he's at. That's that's nothing against Kalani. It would just be a weird marriage. It would be like Gundy coaching at Rutgers or like something like that. It would be weird. I like Lance. I think his offense that he runs is really fun. He built that program. That program was, but you can make the same argument about Dion. That Colorado program was maybe the worst Power 5 team in the country when they hired Deion Sanders, and then 2 years later they went 10-2, or I guess 10-3. And that's regardless, you can win a lot of games with a quarterback. You can't win 10 games just with a quarterback. You got to build a team, and I think he's shown that he's a decent coach, and I respect Coach Prime. I don't agree with all the stuff that he does, but everybody was knocking the way that he built his roster, and he ended up in a 4-way tie for first in the Big 12. Like, in a long time since we've done that. So I'd be fine with Coach Prime here.
I wonder how Lubbock would resonate with Coach Prime, because he's almost like, if you look at Joey, he's overly positive. He's a people person. Dion's the same way. Dion's just got a whole lot more flash, obviously. Yeah. And Joey exudes that hardworking. Came up from the high school ranks, and I feel like people in West Texas really resonate with that. I don't know how much people in Lubbock would resonate with a former NFL superstar turned coach. I just don't know if that's my thing, is how would that actually fit in Lubbock with the culture?
Yep. I think it's a fair point.
I think that Lubbock embraces coaches. Like, we rarely don't like a sitting coach. Maybe
Matt Wells and Tommy Tuberville.
Yeah.
I was about to say
Tuberville.
Yeah.
So I guess that is 2 of the last 4 coaches.
But yeah, I think we're open to a lot. Like, the difference between Beard and McCasland is very stark. We had Tubby Smith, who everybody liked. You've had a lot of different coaches. Here's I guess the final question I'll ask, and then we'll close. How many teams in the Big 12 do you think would trade their current coach for Joey Maguire right now? And you don't got to name the teams, but where are you at? I think, if I had to look at it, I think there's.
Can we go? Can we just go down the list? Can we go down the list and say yes or no for that school?
TCU. I think they would say
honestly
no.
Yes. You think no?
I think they'd say yes.
I think
I'm
one
with
more
Clayton.
season and they would be yes.
I know that Dykes
Clayton.
is not well loved by the donors. Okay, so we'll say yes on that one. Baylor.
No, not anymore. They would
I don't
have
think
like
anymore. They would have last year at the beginning of the year. Yeah.
Ask me 3 games into the season and it may be yes, but Baylor wanted to Baylor before they played us last year. Baylor fans on whatever forum they were on.
He was going to get fired.
We're talking. Well, he was going to get fired, but they were also talking. I remember seeing threads and tweets and conversations about how they should have hired Joey. Like all these Baylor fans saying we should have hired Joey.
Yeah.
I don't know that. I mean, I know we got beat by them last year, and I know that Aranda went and had this. They finished the way they did, but I think there's still a contingency of Baylor people that would actually trade.
I think you're right.
Would trade Aranda for Joey for sure.
I do think you're right.
What about Oklahoma State?
No.
Yeah.
I think they're sick of Gundy, but deep down,
they
right now
were so close to firing him.
I know, but it's like
he literally had to take a pay cut.
Would they do it? Would they trade for Joey? Like, would they be like? I guess probably. You're probably right.
Yeah, they would.
But I think Gundy's more proven. Like he's the more experienced.
Yeah.
Like I don't know.
No, I'm not saying they should, or like it would be a good decision. But there's some of these schools that probably should that wouldn't. Also,
yeah, you're that's a great way to put it. Houston, I think they would trade
without a doubt.
West Virginia, I don't think they would.
No, not right now.
Really?
I mean, they love Rich Rod.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
Like ask them in 18 months.
What about UCF?
No, UCF
like that's one that they should.
They should.
Yeah, I don't think they would.
Won't. The nostalgia is so strong with West Virginia and with UCF for their head coaches.
Very true.
Utah, I don't think they would.
No,
I think they. If they're considering age, I think they would. No, they do like him, but don't they expect him to retire like after this year?
Yeah.
I mean, if that aspect is coming into play, I think they would. But if it's
okay, Brennan at Arizona, I think that's a resounding. They would trade.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Colorado, no way they're trading Dion. BYU, I feel like there's no way they trade Kalani.
Yeah. No.
Scott Satterfield at Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati would do it, but it's hard to get a read on that one. Lance Leipold at Kansas. That one's one I just like can't decide. I think they probably like Lance quite a bit.
That one is tough because remember all the stuff with like his wife this last year
not liking Kansas. So like, where's the beef?
Yeah, I don't really know. I don't understand the whole vibe that's going on there. But I lean towards no.
I don't think any of us on the show know Mrs. Maguire, but I don't know that she would like Kansas that much either.
Potential guest on the show later this year. Debbie, if you're listening, we'd love to have you on.
Yeah, we'd love to have you on. So you can let us know what you think about living in Lawrence, Kansas.
Yeah. Yep. Matt Campbell at Iowa State. I think the Cyclones would keep Campbell.
Yeah, they would keep him.
Yeah.
Chris Kleiman at Kansas State. I think they would keep him.
They would keep
him for sure.
And then Kenny Dillingham at Arizona State. I think they would keep him.
They'd keep him.
Keep him for sure.
So I mean that's probably like half. I think that's probably fair.
Yeah.
I think Joey, like the thing that people knock Joey for is they're going to say that he's not like an advanced schemer or like he's not have the Dave Aranda like defensive chops. But in this day and age, that's part of it. That's part of being a head coach, and that's a valuable skill. But like Joey's ability to bring cohesion to a program, to bring stability to a program, to work with the donors, to work with the boosters. That is a massive part of the program building aspect of college football right now. Like I think Joey would have thrived 10 years ago too, because he would have just been a recruiting monster, but he's used that ability to facilitate donor relations, and he's channeled that into what you should be getting your head coach to do. And I think that part of his coaching ability, and that's not knocking his in-game ability. I think his fourth down stuff has been excellent. I think his tendencies to be cutting edge on things is really good. But I think that part of his ability as a coach is often overlooked. And it's just, Tech has all this money. No, Joey found a way to unite a lot of the boosters, Joey and his staff, to facilitate this and make all this happen. I think that is almost never mentioned.
Yeah.
No, he's much more of like a CEO than he is of like a really smart coach on either side of the ball.
And being Italian.
Yes.
You forget how
We
much
don't
of a
have
benefit that is
big
too.
security guard on the
Yeah, you're
sidelines,
exa-
unfortunately.
It's interesting too because you're thinking about Joey being, I mean, not just a CEO. I don't want to minimize that because that, I mean, he's responsible for everything. But at the same time, I couldn't even imagine being a college football coach these days and calling plays. I mean, that's
yeah.
like think Lincoln Riley at USC. I mean, all that he like that being the head coach, then having to study film and game plan. Now he's been one of the best play callers in college football since he started calling plays. So there's a little bit of an an ability there that
Mhm.
is just there. But having to do all of that and be the CEO of and run everything because that's what you are. And I think that's
Yeah.
what Joey. I think that's what Joey does so well is he not only hired. I mean, he hired Kitley. He had Cumbie before that. Made a decision with the Reuter defensive coordinator that hopefully pans out because he's trying to hire the right people and put them in the right spots because who you hire and how you hire them and when you hire them for your program makes a huge difference. I think Joey has shown that he's not afraid to make the decisions specifically on defense, but also he went out and got Coach Leftwich, who was a top name for different. Utah wanted him. I think there were a couple other schools that wanted him. I think when you think about all of those things that he did along with his relationship building, that's why he's just such a perfect fit for Texas Tech and really could fit a lot of places. But I think he's just too perfect of a fit at Texas Tech for us to take for granted because he's perfect for Tech.
Extremely well said. I agree with almost all that.
Yeah.
Well, guys, that was
guys. I have a question for y'all.
Oh man.
This is to close the show.
Okay.
This just came to me.
Okay. The spirit led you.
Where would y'all least what would you say is the worst job in the Big 12? Like the without a doubt equivalent, like there's no doubt. Is there one? Or is there a bottom tier?
I still think it's Kansas, even though they've had some success. Like you'll always be the backseat to basketball, and even they just renovated their stadium, and it still looks like one of the worst stadiums in the Big 12. Like I don't think you would ever have full buy-in on the football side of things at Kansas.
I think for me, it's hard to separate Colorado from Dion. I think it's Colorado, Arizona, Cincinnati, UCF, or Houston. I think Houston has an advantage of being in probably the best talent bed, and that's going to help them a little bit. But as far as resources into their football program, I think they've got to be one of the worst in the Big 12 right now. I mean, their roster is getting pillaged. They're not in a great spot. I think it's probably Houston for me.
Wow. So you think UCF is worse than Kansas? That's surprising to me. Because like the recruiting advantages of being in Florida, their fan base is way bigger.
But it's like there's just not a ton of money there. Like it's just a younger school. Like Kansas at least has money. They can you can see like they're recruiting way better than they used to. Like they have some money there. It's just whether you can ever get the buy-in. And I think that's a way better position to be in than thinking there is no money here. Yeah, we're going to have to hope that it. I think I'd rather be in that position than.
Yeah.
No,
that's kind of just how I feel about it.
Arizona is a good call out too because they definitely have money problems, and same aspect that I mentioned with Kansas, like basketball will always be priority there.
Yeah.
Yep. And
I think it's funny how we're looking at different schools and just saying, haha, you don't have any money.
But that's not to say that you can't do well. Like you think about Tom Herman at Houston did really well. You think about Jed Fish, that was a 10-win Arizona team. Those programs have recently had better seasons than you've had. Mm-hmm. And so that's not to say you can't do well there. I just think it's harder. I think Tech has found a way to lose a lot of games in spite of its resources. These programs have found a way to win games despite their lack of resources. You keep shooting yourself in the foot. They keep not doing that.
And the thing is, though, I think that's pretty obvious to everyone, right? That we've done that, and that we've finally saying, hey, we've got the resources. Let's invest. Not that we haven't been before, although it did make a case on an earlier episode that we did not invest the way that we should have, and now we finally are, which I think is going to pay dividends in the future and starting with the 2025 football season.
Yep. So we'll see. Well, gentlemen, this was fun. I really enjoyed that conversation. Excellent insights from Conrad and Clayton. I would have loved to have heard Brennan's thoughts on some of this stuff, but we will be back Monday. We look forward to talking to you guys. Football season's getting closer. We're 80-something days away from the start of fall camp, so it's going to be here pretty quickly. For those of you staying this long, we appreciate it. Mom, shout out. Thanks for listening. And yeah, thank you guys for being here. We'll talk to you guys soon. Signing off for the Broadway Shuffle, this is Zyler.